Hey everybody, Ryan Doyle, Verdigris Table, Dragon of Icespire Peak, Dungeon Prep Series, Loggers Camp. On the face of it, this is the simplest of the follow-up adventures that go up on the job board in Phandalin when the players become level 3. If you are skipping the job board or just want to emphasize this one a little bit more, it doesn't take much imagination to see how Elmer Barthen or Harbin Wester, likely the two NPCs that we're talking to the most in town anyway, could ask our heroes to make this supply delivery up to the camp in Neverwinter Wood. But though it seems cut and dry, it is so easy for the players to miss the context here, and for this quest to end up feeling random and kind of meaningless, especially if they're no fans of Harbin Wester in the first place. When they find out his half-brother is even worse, this might not be their favorite mission. Add to that asking a new DM to run a hex crawl with very little interesting mechanical support provided by the book, and this one might be a real dud. So let's talk about ways you could make it better for your table. The first idea I really like because it's a 2 birds, 1 stone situation, maybe even 3 birds actually. We can tie this one to the Tower of Storms, which is way more fun in my opinion and requires the DM to develop a good hook anyway because it will never show up on that job board. There's an entry on the rumor table about a weird lighthouse and shipwrecks and treasure, but that's it. We'll go over running the Tower of Storms next time, subscribe so you don't miss it, but for now we're going to deliver this rumor to the NPCs on the road as they're heading out of town. We've got at least 2 days of overland travel to reach our destination, so for that first day I would insert an NPC with this information. If I had an eye on doing the Beyond Icespire Peak quests for levels 7 through 12, or at least wanted that option on the table, and I love having options, I would actually have Marticia Vinetalker, the proprietor of the Wayside Inn, delivering this message. She's on her way to Phandalin for supplies, and in crossing paths with a band of adventurers on the road, she offers them a reward for retrieving something from one of the ships wrecked at that lighthouse. A jug of alchemy feels like a really good fit for somebody opening a tavern, and maybe there's even 2, right? And the party can keep one if they retrieve the other for her. At the moment, she can see that the PCs have good old Vincent the Ox and a cart full of goods to deliver, so she says they can hit the coast on their way back from the loggers camp. This way, we've got the Tower of Storms, right, and that whole Talos storyline in our game, plus the Wayside Inn, which is at the intersection of the Tribord Trail and the High Road, and is the location that begins the new campaign arc after Cryovane Falls, if we're going to go that way. Also, we've connected a better quest to this lackluster one. 3 birds, 1 stone. Think about it. Alternatively, Xanth the Centaur could be delivering the info on the Tower of Storms, so that does feel a little bit less intuitive to me. Maybe he knows there's a connection with the Circle of Thunder, which is the thing he's going to go talk about in the Dragon Barrow quest line later. And yeah, you could definitely make it work, but I like Marticia here. Now on to our second day of travel where the party is going through the forest. Now, I am all for making overland travel interesting and emphasizing the exploration pillar of play. That's why I made my Verdigris random encounter tables. Running this, I definitely consider using the forest encounters to make this more interesting. And Nona Verdi and the Lycanthrope story would actually tie in very nicely with the Were-Rats and Mountain's Toe, and even the Anchorites becoming boars. Links up here, down below, check it out. If you're not going to use that, do something to make failing a survival check and getting lost more interesting than, oh, you lost another 1d4 hours, when that's just a meaningless consequence. I mean, maybe that sounds fun for you, repeated for 6 or 7 hexes, in which case go for it, but I don't love it. At the least, I would trigger this boring encounter, get it, in the event that the party does lose their way. And I'd emphasize that there is something strange about this board. There's a lot more intelligence in its eyes than you'd expect from a simple beast. If you feel like doing a deep dive on hex crawls and learning a lot about a cool, old school method of play, Jim Davis and Pruitt over on WebDM have a few great conversations on this topic. More links, be advised, watch those, and you might lose a couple days filling in hex maps, and it will be glorious. Now, let's not think too hard about how you get an ox cart through 30 miles of dense forest, whether we go all out or just fast forward and narrate a travel montage. When the party arrives at the loggers camp with enough food to supply a small army, they're going to find that the whole place is seemingly abandoned. In my imagination, this is a lot like a scene out of Jurassic Park, right? Lean into that tension to make this one memorable. There are big, horrible things out there to eat us, and we have to move very carefully through this environment to avoid them. And Tibor Wester is that guy that ran and hid in the bathroom, right? Now, L1 is the only place that's safe from the Ankhegs, but I don't think the players will know that unless you really spell it out for them. And there's nothing interesting up there anyway, so it's kind of skippable. L2, on the other hand, has the super spooky voodoo dolls that are causing this, which are very cool, but you might have to help them get found. A solid investigation or survival check anywhere around camp could find tracks leading to this fireplace, and maybe they're boar tracks or boar tracks that become humanoid boot prints. I'd also play up that these dolls have boar hair. Detect magic, detect good and evil, divine sense, whatever. I'd be very generous in letting the players get like a ping and have a reason to search this fireplace. Wait to do that until the PCs are really investigating this place, and they will probably check the tents in L6 for loggers before looking at that ruined cabin in L2. But if not, you'll have to decide what happens if the dolls are destroyed before any Ankhegs are encountered. Of course, the players will have to connect some dots before they realize to do that, and it would be a real shame if you don't get to have some monstrous insects erupt from the ground, surprising our unsuspecting heroes and spraying them with acid. I would bring them in one at a time. One, because that big reveal is a great moment, so might as well have it multiple times instead of blowing it all at once. But two, there's going to be a big difference in the deadliness in fights between 2 Ankhegs and 3 Ankhegs. We talked about the action economy in the last video on Butterskull Ranch, but I am also a big fan of enemies entering in the midst of a combat because it creates a feeling of phases with rising stakes. You don't want to do it every time, but it's a good tool to have in your Dungeon Master's toolbox. Here's another interesting thing to consider. When an additional Ankheg enters the fight with a 1 in its intelligence, might it hit another Ankheg with its acid spray if they're in line with 1 or more PCs? Think about it. The way this map is set up, they'll likely have the fight in L6 before they uncover the evidence of what happened in L5, and if that feels a little bit backwards to you, change it. You're the Dungeon Master. But the players won't know that there's only a single Ankheg left in L3 as written, so they should still be like tiptoeing around or even utilizing the river to dodge tremor sense. How do the PCs know how the Ankhegs operate? Well, I'm the kind of DM who lets players roll for lore and monster knowledge. Maybe because I'm the kind of player who asks, would my character know anything about this? But if that's not your style, Tibor Wester could also tell them, maybe through the locked door in L3, just before another Ankheg explodes through the floorboards. Now, as written, Tibor is going to make the most cowardly, self-serving choice every time. Must run in the family, right? But that raises the question, what would that be in this situation? And I really don't think that means he'd stay in this camp alone, deep in the forest, where all his people were just massacred. The PCs need him to sign the paperwork so they can get paid, but I'd have him refuse to do so unless they escort him back to the safety of Phandalin. A good compromise would be escorting him as far as the Tribord Trail and sending him off with Vincent and the cart while the party heads for the Tower of Storms. Bringing Tibor to Falcon's Lodge is also an option here, and the book seems to want to encourage the players to drop in with a bottle of wine since they're in the neighborhood and all. But that might lead to Woodland Manse, which is built for level 5, and then an assault on the lodge in retaliation, and then a journey to the Circle of Thunder, which is built for level 6. And while that's all fun, and we'll get there, we might be dealing with a level 3 party at this stage. Falcons is going to come up on the job board later. and Centaur is going to show up to lead us there as well. So I would rather have a good connection to the Tower of Storms, which is built for level 3 here, and save Falcons for later. Maybe we catch Martisha Vinetalker making her way back to the Wayside Inn, and she reiterates her call to adventure, to head for the lighthouse on the shore. Or maybe the PCs just forge a signature and never go to the loggers camp in the first place, so we make up a quest card for the Tower of Storms and just use those Ankhegs as a random encounter while they travel there. You're the Dungeon Master. Adapt, improvise, make this world your own. Up next, Tower of Storms. See you there. Until then, get out there, have fun, be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, and thanks so much for watching. Bye.